Okay, here's what we actually know. 30,000 years ago, hearing howling beyond the firelight meant one thing. Something out there wanted to eat you. Wolves weren't the biggest threat around cave lions, and cave bears had that covered, but they were the most relentless. Coordinated packs and days across frozen tundra. You couldn't outrun them. And yet, there are over 900 million dogs on this planet right now. They sleep in our beds, sniff out cancer in hospitals, sit next to kids in courtrooms to keep them calm while they testify. At Bonn Oberkassel in Germany, archaeologists found a dog buried alongside two humans, 14,000 years old. The dog had canine distemper. Someone had nursed him for weeks before he died. 14,000 years ago, a person looked at a dying animal and thought, "I'm not giving up on you." Nobody planned any of this. No hunter woke up and said, "You know what this camp needs? A wolf." The wolves came on their own. They made the first move. And what happened next changed both species for good. Here are 10 ways wolves chose us long before we ever chose them. Number 10. The wolf's world. To understand why a wolf would walk toward a human camp, you've got to understand what their lives actually looked like. A broken leg during a hunt was usually a death sentence. Lose too many pack members in one bad season, and the whole group collapsed. Even a clean kill was no guarantee cave hyenas rival packs. Cave lions were always close, always ready to take what someone else had earned. Every meal cost something. Every winter was a real chance the pack simply didn't make it. And then a new smell. Humans, slow no claws, no armor, but spectacularly messy eaters. Bones, organs, marrow, left behind at predictable spots. Reliable calories in a world where nothing was reliable. For a wolf already struggling to survive a human camp, wasn't just food. It was consistent food. That's a completely different thing. Number 9, the quiet revolution. So some wolves started hanging around camp. What followed was a slow, brutal filter. The aggressive ones charged in and got speared. The skittish ones stayed too far back and got nothing. But the wolves that held their ground near the firelight without attacking or bolting, those wolves ate. They mated with wolves wired the same way. Over hundreds of generations, calm bred with calm. DNA from ancient fossils puts the split between modern dogs and wolves somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago, well before domestication shows up at any dig site. The old story humans grabbed wolf pups from dens and trained them into companions doesn't hold up. Biologists who've spent careers working with actual wolves call it a fairy tale. You can't train a wolf the way you'd train a dog. That capacity had to be built in slowly by selection pressure nobody was consciously running. The wolves domesticated themselves. Not on purpose, just by showing up and not being idiots about it. Number 8, the alarm system. Once calmer wolves started sleeping at the edge of camp, humans noticed something they hadn't counted on. Wolves woke before anyone did. They smelled what was coming before anyone could see it, bears rival groups and predators moving through the dark. They reacted long before the people in camp had any idea something was wrong. That's not a small advantage. In a world without walls or fences, the difference between waking up in time and not waking up at all was often exactly that a few seconds of warning from something with a nose 100 times better than yours. For the wolves staying paid off, for the humans letting them stay paid off, neither side sat down and decided this was a good deal. It just became one. Number 7, the hunt. Wolves can smell prey from kilometers away. Follow a trail hours old across frozen ground. Scan an entire herd in seconds and pick out the injured animal, the one that'll cost the least to bring down. That's where humans came in. Sharper weapons, better daylight vision, the ability to coordinate a complex attack from a distance. Humans could finish what the wolves started. Both sides split the work. Both sides ate. And the archaeology lines up wolf dog remains buried alongside massive concentrations of mammoth bones. At some sites, people built shelters entirely out of mammoth bones. You don't do that unless you're finding them regularly, which means the partnership was already working well enough to count on. Number 6. The game changer. When modern humans and wolves started hunting together in Europe, another human species was already there. Neanderthals, strong cold, adapted, intelligent. Top predators on that continent for hundreds of thousands of years. 45,000 years ago, they were everywhere. 5,000 years later, they were gone. Anthropologist Pat Shipman spent years studying the record and proposed something the field's still arguing about. Neanderthals left zero evidence of forming alliances with animals. Modern humans had wolves. That difference, Shipman argues, may have been the decisive one. There's supporting evidence. Archaeologists found wolf remains on Stora Karlsö, a small island off Sweden with no native land mammals. Isotope analysis showed those wolves ate marine protein, the same diet as the humans there. They were smaller than mainland wolves. They lived with people. They ate what people ate on an island people chose. Those weren't wild wolves passing through. Number 5. The field guards. Around 12,000 years ago, humans started settling near wild wheat and barley in Mesopotamia, which immediately created a new problem. Everything else wanted the harvest too. Deer, rodents, or wild boar, wherever there was grain, something was trying to take it. Dogs started figuring out on their own, by watching what made the people around them react, that chasing those animals off was worth doing. It got them food proximity safety. In villages across India today, feral dogs with no owner and no training have been documented, driving crop-raiding primates away from rice fields for generations. Nobody taught them. They watched, learned what the people nearby needed, and responded to it. That pattern repeated on every continent. Dogs guarded crops. Humans built surpluses. Surpluses built civilizations. It's one of those chains that seems too clean to be true, and yet there it is. Number 4. The herders. Around 10,000 years ago, something that shouldn't have worked somehow, did the descendants of wolves started protecting the animals they would have otherwise eaten. The method that made it work still exists in Mongolia today. A Bankar pup is separated from its mother at 8 weeks and placed directly with a flock. It bonds with the sheep instead of with other dogs. The flock becomes its pack. When wolves attack, the dog doesn't need to be told what to do, those are its animals. Dogs protecting goats, sheep, and cattle, first in the Near East, then Persia, India, China, enabled something that reshaped everything. Reliable animal protein meant larger communities and denser settlements, the slow beginning of what we'd eventually call civilization. And it started with a puppy that decided a flock of sheep was home. Number 3. The trackers. A dog's nose has 300 million scent receptors. Ours has about 6 million. Their olfactory membrane, the tissue doing the actual work, is roughly 6 times larger than ours, folded into the back of the nasal cavity. In practice, a dog can follow a scent trail left 4 days ago, can detect a single cancer marker in a sample diluted to 1 part per trillion, can locate a person buried under meters of rubble. In Kenya's Ol Pejeta Reserve, a bloodhound named Lux spent 6 years tracking poachers targeting elephants and rhinos. In that time, poaching in the reserve dropped by more than 80%. Not because of fences or ranger patrols alone, because of a dog that could smell where someone had walked 8 hours ago, then follow that line across a river in the dark. Number 2. The healers. This one nobody planned for. Eye contact with a dog triggers oxytocin release in you and in the dog. The same bonding hormone. The same neurochemical loop running in both directions at once. Dogs have been documented stabilizing heart rate, lowering blood pressure, pulling people out of dissociative states that medication alone couldn't reach. Veterans with severe PTSD. Children who can't speak in courtrooms without shutting down. Patients in dementia wards who haven't responded to staff in months. Dogs are used everywhere. Dogs read human facial expressions with a precision that took researchers years to fully document. They can pick up fear, grief, and shame from across a room. And they respond not because they were trained to, but because 30,000 years of living alongside us built that capacity in deep enough that it's just part of what they are now. The wolf that crept toward the firelight to steal scraps ended up eventually sitting next to someone in a hospital room, keeping them alive in ways we still don't fully understand. Number 1, the choice. The standard story of domestication is about human control. We tamed things, we decided what was useful. We brought animals into our world on our terms. Wolves didn't follow that script. They chose the scraps, they chose the firelight, they chose to stay when they could have left. And in doing that, over thousands of generations, they built something that worked for both sides, an alliance between two intelligent social predators who had every reason to fear each other and somehow didn't. Every time a dog looks up at you, you're looking at the result of that original decision. Not ours, theirs. All 10 of these moments share one thing: none of them required a human decision to start. Wolves showed up. Wolves stayed calm. Wolves learned what made the people around them react and built a role for themselves in the hunt at the camp perimeter in the fields, and eventually in our homes and hospitals. We like to think we domesticated them. The evidence suggests they had considerably more to do with it than we did. 1 billion dogs on Earth today. All of them the Chihuahua, the Saint Bernard, the Bloodhound running down a poacher at midnight, descended from a small group of wolves, maybe a dozen, that decided a human camp was worth the risk. Whatever they were looking for when they came in from the cold, they found it.